Welcome to whatever this is, the podcast for the casually curious. I am Jason, your host. Over time, people have asked me questions, some privately, some in the comments, etc. And I decided that okay, now is the time to have a bit of a cheeky Q&A. My plan is to basically pick about a few questions and answer them. Are you more scared of being heartbroken or of someone actually loving you fully? Um, this is one of those questions where the old Jason would say something, the new Jason would say something differently. So I have always been afraid of getting heartbroken. I think that it's been one of those things that have scared me about relationships because I have never considered myself mentally strong enough to deal with heartbreak. I think that as someone who has experienced like a bit of significant loss, like dealing with the loss of my grandmother, etc., um, it's been very difficult to sort of put myself out there with the notion that if I really put everything into this relationship, it may not go according to plan. And that had really scared me from actively going into relationships. Most of the ones that I went through, I did have, I think I had like once or twice a heartbreak, and it was very messy. I think it sort of like really affected me. I wouldn't downplay it. It was crushing. Like it was a mess. But over time, I've been able to like pick up myself. It wasn't until recently that I sort of like had another heartbreak, and then again, I went on into therapy, working on everything, and trying to get into a new relationship. That I realized that I actually fear letting someone love me fully. And this is something that I say with a grain of salt because sometimes when you let someone love you fully, it means that bringing your entire self, your good, the bad, and the ugly into it. It also means that the same way that someone is loving you fully, you also have to love the person fully and accept the person for all that they have and all that they do. My grandma says, if you love me, love my dog. It just means that if you love me and then you may not like dogs, you would have to probably like find a compromise around it and take me as I am. Loving ourselves fully is not something that everyone brings to the table because everyone is hiding. We are all playing a character. For many people who are in relationships, some even long-term marriages, I know many people, they are not being the 100% authentic selves that they are. So they would rather be there and sort of pretend. But if you ask me now in 2025, I would say that I'm not afraid of heartbreak. I think it adds on onto the experience. It is like a chapter in a book. So you sort of go through it, experience every relationship, whatever it is, experience the good, experience the bad. And when it does come to an end, be thankful that it actually came to an end. Look at how you have grown, what things you have learned about yourself, about people, etc. Say thank you. Don't wallow in heartbreak too much. And then go forward into the world, knowing that if this has been able to locate you, something better is coming. My advice is that anyone who is dealing with heartbreak issues realize that you are learning and life is a learning experience. So go into it wholeheartedly. Don't let these things stop or prevent you and make you feel like, oh, I don't want to go into a relationship because I'm afraid. No, please go into it. And when you show up authentically. When you show up in whatever relationship that you have, that you are planning to build, please show up fully. That thing that we do where we go into relationships or trying to get to know people and date people, and then we sort of pretend. Put your best foot and let your worst foot follow. So the person knows that, okay, this is you on a good day, this is you on a bad day, and this is what I get. This is the complete package. So the person doesn't get thrown off when one day you are probably not in your zone, you're probably overstimulated and maybe need a break, and the person's never seen that version of you before. So that is just my advice. I am not afraid of heartbreak. Sometimes I am afraid of basically being loved fully, and this is something that I am working on. So, yes. So, how do you actually know when you're healed and not just in a different type of survivor mode with better lighting? I don't think we ever get healed to that point. I think, as someone who has done a bit of therapy and reflected on my life and done a lot more research into psychology and understanding people, I would never say that we are 100% healed. I would give you an example. So I was in Ghana recently, and even though I was like, okay, I have like better boundaries and all that. Sometimes going back into some of these situations or with people that you sort of like establishing new boundaries with, you realize that, I mean, sometimes you're not just healed, sometimes you just isolated long enough to not be able to deal with them. But should you be put into a new situation or into the old situation with the same people, you realize that the old you comes out. And the thing about healing is that it's never linear. And that's one of the things that I've learned in therapy. So healing is never a linear journey. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then 5 steps forward again. So in some of these situations or in some of these experiences, I would ask myself that, okay, fine, what does the new person now or the new Jason now know or can do differently or handle the situation differently than the old Jason would do? And it shows you that, yes, even though I wouldn't call myself healed, I am on the healing journey. So I know that, okay, fine, I can maybe basically voice out my issues a bit more. I understand when someone is intentional about not understanding me. I know when there's like a need for me to give myself a break, to take a time out, to do all those things. These are things that I actually know now, and it's much better coping mechanisms for me. So healing looks very different for everyone. Sometimes I would not intentionally put myself in a test, but sometimes I would, when the chance arises, I would sort of look at some of these situations and be like, I am handling this thing way better than I would have handled it before. Some of these are like new experiences for me and for everyone, even though it feels like, oh, you may have healed or not. It's just until you are in that situation again, you would not really know if you've healed. But the thing about healing is that you do have the right coping mechanisms to actually work on whatever situation that life may throw upon you. You may be shaking for a bit, so maybe you may spiral for the first few seconds and then gather yourself and be like, I can actually go head on this. And that is what healing looks like. It's never a picture perfect thing, and healing looks different for everyone. So I don't know how your healing looks like, but it may be better than what it was before. What are your thoughts on being the emotional support friend for everyone else, but having no one to hold you when you break down? I think as someone who has done a lot of emotional support work in my friend groups, it is also important for you to have friends who also know that sometimes you also need the emotional support. So I am in a space where I feel like sometimes you have to talk about it. Sometimes you have to let friends know or let people know how to be able to show up for you. So for most of us, we find it difficult to be the friend who talks about, I'm going through this problem or I'm going through this challenge. But you should be that friend, because if someone is your friend, it is a responsibility that requires both people to put in the work, not 100% all the time, but at least a good degree that balances everyone out. So if you find that you are the only emotional support friend in it, I would start by saying that, hey, this is how I'm feeling. I think that I would need a bit more support in this area. Not as like you're not doing, your friends are not doing it for you, but sometimes they just don't know if you are that person who needs it. But also, it can be that you are that person who doesn't give out the notion that you are someone who needs support. Over time, I tend to appreciate the friends that I have who sometimes I don't need to say anything. Sometimes they're there. People who know that, okay, fine, I can invite you over. I can sit down and talk to you a bit, but I also need a few moments to recharge. I can take a power nap and then come back and like be all friendly and all that. Doesn't mean that I'm not there to listen to you, but I also sometimes need my space. I also need to go through my emotions on my own. And sometimes I don't need you to do much. Sometimes I just need you to just be there. Don't say anything. Not don't say anything. Just do you. But when it comes to emotional support, not all of my friends are as emotional as I am. So I know that, okay, fine, this person may not be as emotional as I am or provide that much emotional support, but they also may provide some emotional support just in a way that works for them. I just need to know that, okay, this is how this person is, and this is what emotional support looks like for them. So with that, we know that, okay, fine, we are in a good space, we are working on everything, and then it's more like a much more nicer collaboration instead of feeling like, oh, there is no one to provide me any support, which is usually a very, very bad thing. When did you realize that some people only like you when you are unhappy? And how did you unlearn attaching yourself from those people? Um, so I have had a lot of friends over the years. I think that now in this mental space, I'm a bit more picky about what I call friends. Culturally, everyone is our friend, and sometimes we sort of like know people because of proximity, etc. And then for some people, it's always like they're always, I mean, there for you when you're down. They're there for you when life doesn't go on well. But then we realize that sometimes when life is going on well, they sort of shy away. um I've had very weird friendships that I've also had to like cut off, where you sort of realize that there are some weird dynamics into it. And then I realized that these people were actually always there and always happy when I was unhappy, because sometimes when I was unhappy, I would sort of overextend myself to make them happy. I would have like low boundaries, some self-esteem issues and stuff like that. We all have that. We've all been there. And I realized that over time, when I started working on myself and basically being intentional about my own happiness and picking up myself, some of these people fell off through the cracks. Some intentionally, some I had to put my foot on the ground and be like, hey, this friendship is not working for me and you need to go. Or some actually just picked up the cue and realized that you are not the same person who's basically going to do self deprecating jokes or basically squeeze yourself or minimize yourself so they can actually be there. And yeah, they fell off. So it's not a problem. I feel like for me, I just need to realize that, is this person really someone who is there for me when I am unhappy, or even when I'm happy? How does it look like? Are these people who support me to actually get me out of my funk, or are they those who come and sit down and make it seem like, okay, fine, you're unhappy, it's just a great time to be friends with you because yes, you would support them in being a downer and all that. Thank you for those who sent the questions. I will do subsequent sessions where I talk about these, but do not be afraid to send me your questions. No matter how unhinged they are, you can just ask away. And thank you again for listening to whatever this is, the podcast for the casually curious.